Hello, welcome back to Otter Pop Culture. Today we're going over the London-based singer and producer called Rex Orange Country and his fourth album called Who Cares. So I cannot remember exactly what song pulled me into him or if I just came across him. I was like, I have a feeling I'm gonna like something, so I'm gonna save it or start following him on Spotify. I can't remember what song it is. I do remember seeing the album Pony, but I don't remember listening to it. And so of course this pops up because I'm following him. So this fourth album comes out and I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I'll just get into it and maybe I'll go backwards. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. But I feel like this is a great entry into him too, because I feel like this album is very, very personal and very vulnerable, and also just has a great lesson throughout the whole thing. Um, I feel this. I feel like this album is pretty much about self acceptance, and in all types of ways, whether you are unsure of yourself and or you hate your flaws, or you're just getting out of a relationship, or you're going into a relationship, or so many things he touches on that have to do with doubting yourself and not sure of yourself and not having enough self-worth. But he also has songs that talk about that, where it helps you kind of get to that space, and it feels like we go through a nice journey through this whole thing, with different subjects. There's not really a plot direction where it's going. I feel like it touches on a couple of things. Majority of it talks about relationships, but I feel like I said, it's about his self acceptance, not about the other people, the other person's self acceptance, or the centered around the actual relationship. Is more directly about him. So I'm gonna go through some of the songs, and actually probably pretty much all the songs, and talk about it. Mention some ones I definitely like, and ones I thought was okay, I'll mention that too. So let's get into it. So, oh, side note, so I do know who the producer slash writer or co-writer of this album, which is Benny Sings, and I really, really like him. I think that he's really amazing. I don't know how I still like him, and how I like him so much that I haven't even reviewed any of his albums. I know a lot of his singles, but for some reason the albums haven't really came to the space. So keep a lookout for those if I ever end up if he ends up releasing something very recently, which is I don't really know yet. So let's get into it. So the first song is "Keep It Up." So this one is literally an ode to self-worth, and this direction he's trying to feel. He is adjusting himself to the idea of being famous and being known and all of these things. And because after it's been 5 years now, so he's been pretty much definitely putting his foot. He's definitely in the space of like, okay, people know who I am. People know exactly what's going on, and people know my songs. They're singing it back to me, and all these things. But is a weird space where he doesn't feel like he's worth it of having it. And he also doesn't really know if it's correct, if this is something that, yeah, pretty much, if he doesn't know if he's worth it. Because he'll go, I'm in a place in front of a dozen people I've never met. I don't know if this is correct. And he goes, I guess I'm blessed. I never give myself respect. Most of my life, I'm asking why, but anytime I give a try, I say. So what he says, pretty much, is keep it up, and go on. You only holding out for what you want. No one, or you no longer owe the strangers. So I feel like in this space, what he's talking about is the idea of pretty much just saying, just keep going, just keep doing what you're doing. This is literally more for you than it is for anybody else. It's not, so it doesn't really matter what the other people think. It's about what you think in the end of it. And you don't really owe anybody anything. Even people, there's a space inside the lyrics I was looking for where they put their own little thing and saying like, oh, it's about not owing yourself to anybody that you think you owe to, which is, I think it's in general. You don't owe anything to anybody, and especially yourself. I feel like I really like this song. It's a great kickoff to this album. A next song is "Open a Window" featuring Tyler the Creator. Tyler the Creator, I haven't actually reviewed. I've listened to some of his songs, but I'm still on the fence about him. I need more to get into him. But this song talks about the idea of being stuck and waiting and wanting a new opportunity to kind of show up. And so he uses the metaphor of, can I open a window? Can somebody open the door? Kind of thing. So like makes it feel like there's usually in that space it's kind of want to air things out or want things to kind of, it feels too stuffy. Let's air it all out and have a clearer space. So I feel like that's what he's saying is like, I'm stuck in this brain of mine and just stuck about, or maybe stuck in life and just want to have that kind of want to air it out so I can see clearly. I thought it was okay. I didn't really star it, but I did understand the message. Going to the next one, Worth It. This one talks about pretty much this struggle of moving on after after a particular grief, but this one specifically seems like it's more about a relationship. So he starts off by saying, it's not worth it anymore. I feel insecure. I feel insane. I'm not sure why these things change. But then, and that kind of thing is just like, he's not really cool with this whole change and everything. He's very upset about it. He's also, it feels like he's doubting himself in that space. Just like, why does everything have to change? Why? I don't even know if it's worth it to like fall in love again, if this is going to happen again. But then he goes on and says, it's not like you don't mess up and deserve it. You can choose to be upset, or just get over it. It's up to you. So it seems like he's in that space where he's not really sure whether he wants to fall deeper into the sadness or move past it or try to move past it. And I think that he's talking to himself saying that it's not like you didn't come into this relationship just to mess it all up. This is not something you deserve just because your past does not mean that you deserve all the bad things coming to you or things that happen to you. You don't need to look at it as like, oh, I deserve this. It's like, no one deserves that kind of space, especially in a relationship. Sometimes it's not personal when it comes to relationships ending. And I feel like he's really taken it very personal into himself. But I feel like he also reminds himself that it shouldn't define him in the end. Going into the next one, which I really like, which is Amazing. This one talks about he mentions this is for the lovers, which it is. This one talks about the idea of just really, 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 just love being its thing. Just love just happening, and you never really know when it's going to happen. You never really know who's going to be the person that you fall for, and they could be across the table one day, or you just see somebody and all of a sudden you can't take your eyes off of that person. And that's pretty much what happens in this. He goes, there's no way to time it. Where you might find it, it's unknown. Until then, you are a loner. You're a loner. So until you find love, you kind of feel alone. But I like to point out that it's not entirely true in that space. You feel alone, but you're not alone. And I feel like, he goes on and saying, I see her. She's over in the corner. I can't ignore her. I hope this is a reason to see it. So he sees this woman that he's interested in, and there's a spark that's bubbling up in him. And so he now feels like he doesn't feel as hopeless about love now. And so he's like, I wonder if this is the feeling I'm supposed to feel, or if this is it, because I want to believe. It feels like he wants to believe in love, but he's very unsure of himself about it. But he really likes his person. He's like, don't change a thing. You are amazing. I can't believe you've come to save me. It's pretty much a very satisfying thing for him. I would like to point out, though, is that I don't really care for the whole saving thing. I feel like it's a very slippery slope to say that somebody saved you into a relationship, because I feel like that kind of devalues the fact that you couldn't save yourself. You couldn't better yourself on your own. You had to get somebody to pull you to save you, like you're some type of like dog inside the SPCA or something like that. And I feel like it does feel that way, but I think I like to remind myself and other people that it's not that love doesn't save you. It shouldn't save you. It should add something to you, not become you in that way, if that makes any sense. Going to the next one, which is One in a Million. This one is just being in love. He just loves this person. He thinks that this person is so great. One in a million. And there's not really much to say about this song. It's pretty straightforward. Do I ever get you don't ever do me wrong, or you don't do no wrong to me. I wish I could just say the same, but it's okay. I'll try to do whatever it takes to believe that I'm enough and hope that you agree. I like that. So it seems like he's saying that it seems like he has made mistakes inside this relationship as much as she hasn't, but he wants to prove and remind himself that those things don't define him, that he's still worthy of love even after those mistakes. And I think I really like that. If You Want It pretty much talks about the idea of he wants this love interest to take a chance on him, and even with all his flaws that he has, he thinks because he says, like, there's too much that I seem to worry about. It's too much for you. But he says, if you want it, there's no reason to not love if you want it. Let's believe that we belong if you want it. So pretty much it's just like, let's kind of push forward. Even though these kind of flaws that I have, I still want to kind of move forward. And I feel like it kind of blends in perfectly with One in a Million, where he's trying to remind himself that he's worthy of love, to be loved. Going into the next one, 7 a.m. This one talks about self-doubt. There's no conclusion to it. It kind of feels like he's kind of just venting it out. He goes by saying, guess that I should have tried to not give a fuck. I guess that's what I was doing. What? God, I guess that's what I didn't do, or, God, I write so sloppy. I was doing it wrong this time again. I write so sloppy, I can't even. But anyways, so pretty much talking about in this space of just, he feels like he cares about what everybody thinks, and it ends up kind of spiraling him down. And so he's like, shit, okay, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, next time I do it better, kind of thing. And he talks about wanting to be independent, but then he says, I really want to prove myself today, but what if I'm hopeless, independent? And then he goes on, he's like, I got used to failing, but I'm not dumb, so excuse me if I'm wasting all the fun. It feels like what he's saying is that he's doubting himself, of course, but he's doubting himself because he feels like he's been failing so often that he doesn't really believe that he can do things correctly. And he's also seems like he's very hard on himself when he doesn't do things correctly, to his satisfaction, I should say. Going into the next one, which I really like, by the way. I like 7 a.m. It's a really good song. The Shade. This one talks about pretty much his reminiscing with his ex about his regrets about the relationship. So this one talks about I feel like there's a lot of metaphors to this, and so I want to break it down by going lyrics and talking about what it means. So the first thing he says was, I was closing all the blinds just so you can sleep the night through. Sure, it sounds familiar. It sounds very easy. It's like, oh, he's very considerate. He closed the blinds for you so you can sleep through the night. But I think it doesn't really make sense to close the blinds at night. Like, it doesn't really make any sense unless there's some light into your window, which is very subjective. But this is, I feel like it's a metaphor for saying that he closed himself off from her, or hid his feelings from her, so that she wouldn't have to worry about him. And I think that's great sometimes. It sounds great in the mind of the person, but in the end of it, you're not being authentic and honest with that person. So so that just falls into the space of stuff we're not talking about in our relationship. And then it goes into, I would love to just be stuck, I started painting all the walls just to see if you liked the shade. So, sounds pretty simple. I do stuff and see if you like it, but I feel like it really means is that he changes himself and tries to do things to impress her. But from the way it sounds like, it feels like maybe he's realizing that how very desperate that maybe came off, and maybe it didn't really show any self-respect to himself. It's just like you're changing everything about yourself to try to appease this person, without kind of just being more authentic about yourself. Just like, this is who I am. This is it, you know? And I think the idea that people do that all the time in relationships, we want to change immediately when we see that there's something that they may not like, or we don't like about ourselves, so we hid it away so that we can have a beautiful relationship. But then, of course, as time go on, things get peeled back, and then you start seeing these things. All the things that you hid are coming to light, and it sucks. But yeah. So he goes on to say, I would love to just be stuck with you by your side, not with anybody else. It's enough just to keep us occupied. Please don't go. It seems like this is part of the reason why things fell apart, is that he wanted to stay in a relationship, not because there's a future in this, but it's more the fact that I want to keep us occupied. It keeps me occupied. I don't think that people should be in relationships just for the fun of it. Just to occupy your time. I think Kylie Minogue said that in one of her songs. I gotta remember it. Okay, I don't remember it, but it's in there. Going to the next one, Making Time. This one I wasn't really sure about. It's an interlude. Talking about, he says, making time to see you. We're safe inside. You make things fine. Don't wait up. I'm okay. Not really sure what it means, but we'll run with it. Shoot Me Down talks about wanting to wanting his partners to stick around in the midst of of relationship strain. And I feel like in this thing, it seems like it's a weird space that he does in his lyrics. It feels like he's looking back and realizing, these are how I felt. These are things I felt in this relationship that I knew weren't the healthiest thoughts, but now I know, kind of thing. But it's more just describing that, reliving that setting. He says, don't lose me now. Don't shoot me down. I'll stick around. We'll do it somehow. One piece that he says is like, what if this heart breaks into something that I'm unable to heal. So it seems like he's very worried that if they break up, what if we can't heal from this breakup? And I feel like that is also a direction where you shouldn't really stay in a relationship, just because you are scared about how hard your heart might break. But I definitely love that vulnerability that he throws out in that space, because it is a common feeling. It is such a common feeling. It's like, oh, what if this tears me apart? Or what if something goes wrong, or blah, 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 or what if I can't recover? And then he moves on, or she moves on and she finds another person, and I'm just stuck in this space, you know? It's very worrisome in that space. And then he goes on and says, a lot of wasted time just thinking things that don't excel me. I'm not really sure exactly what that means. Maybe he just wastes a lot of time not moving forward, putting action into his future. And so maybe that's another reason why things are going shitty, because he realizes, like, maybe you're advancing with your life and I'm not. And maybe that either makes her feel like, okay, what are you doing? Like, this, I feel like I'm moving past you. Or he feels insecure about it, the fact that she is advancing in her life and he's kind of still stuck in that space. Finally, the last song, which is one of my favorite songs off this album, which is Who Cares? This one talks about the feeling of self-consciousness. And he starts off by feeling pretty much where he doesn't feel like people really care, the doubts that people would care about who he is or how he feels about things. So he says, first time I tried this, I was free of doubt. I had no fear. Why can't I just do that again? And he goes, what am I supposed to do now that what are you supposed to do now that you care about who cares? And he goes, who cares? I like that. I feel like it says that first, and it goes, and you feel like, okay, who cares? Who's going to care about how I feel? Like, he kind of feels like he's a burden. And then it goes into the flip side of this, where he talks about his friends. He's like, why can't I just see you, my friend? That's what I cannot live without. Okay, it's clear that really no point of living in fear. And he goes, I want to be happy. I know what I'm supposed to do now that I know who cares. Who cares? And I really love that. I feel like it turns around itself and it says, okay, I didn't know who cares, but I looked at my friends. I look to my friends and I realize they are the ones that care. These are the people that care. They are the people that pull me out of these spaces. And so it ends with a nice little satisfying acceptance of knowing that there's people out there for him in a space of just doubting himself and learning to accept himself as he goes on throughout the tracks. I think that's really cool. I give this a 9 out of 10. I think it's such a great insight of who Rex is as a person. I think it's really cool. Well written as well. Leave a comment below, tell me what you thought. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe button, notification bell as well. If you've seen this person live, please let me know. If you have some insight about this album as well, I would love to hear about it in the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.